Welcome to this remarkable tale. What you're about to experience isn't merely a recount of the past. It's a caution, an enigma, a shift, a horror, and a teaching moment. It's the account of a young man born into privilege, affluence, esteem, ease. Yet, circumstances altered. He didn't pursue commerce. He didn't emerge as a guide. He turned into the most pursued individual in contemporary times. A figure whose identity caused global paralysis. A person who vanished from existence for almost a decade. A target the planet sought to eliminate. But the true narrative, it's far more profound. It's not solely about his actions. It's about his evolution into that persona. How authority and faith, suffering and intent, riches and conflict can ruin not only one individual but rattle the whole globe. This narrative will transport you from opulent Saudi residences to Afghan caverns, from extravagance to concealment, from a youth in school attire to a phantom in a hidden enclave. And crucially, as you absorb this, you'll also enhance your English skills. You'll expand your lexicon. You'll grasp sentence construction. You'll hone your comprehension. Thus, this presentation isn't just historical. It's about your growth. You'll conclude this account understanding Osama bin Laden's true nature. And you'll end it wiser, more resilient, and improved in English. So, relax, inhale deeply, for this will be indelible. Section 1, The Affluent Youth Destined to Stun the Globe. Let's rewind not to 2001, not to 2011. Let's return to 1957. That's the year Osama bin Laden entered the world in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. But he wasn't born into hardship. He wasn't born in a makeshift shelter or conflict area. He arrived amid splendor. His father, Mohammed bin Awad bin Laden, wasn't merely wealthy. He ranked among Saudi Arabia's wealthiest, a building magnate, a confidant of the Saudi monarchy. Indeed, the bin Laden clan resembled nobility without the crown. Picture mansions, personal chauffeurs, attendants, gourmet meals, grand estates. That defined Osama's existence from the start. But here's the odd aspect. Despite the fortune, Osama stood apart. He was reserved, timid, courteous, earnest. He avoided boisterous laughter. He steered clear of mischief. He differed from typical privileged children. He attended Al-Thajer Model School in Jeddah. It catered to the upper class. Affluent households enrolled their offspring there for future triumphs. Yet even in that setting, Osama exhibited greater piety than peers. While most lads engaged in soccer and viewed television, Osama studied the Quran and committed passages to memory. He was already embracing the notion that existence should transcend the ordinary. Osama wasn't aggressive. He avoided discussions of conflict or violence, but he held profound convictions in Islam, not merely observing it. He advocated defending it through struggle. Educators noted his profound inquiries about faith. He remained quiet during breaks, pondering. He ignored romantic pursuits. He never ditched lessons. He appeared as an ordinary, diligent lad. But internally, he was forging a worldview. By age 17, a pivotal event occurred. The surrounding environment transformed. As a teen in 1979, the Soviet Union overran Afghanistan. It marked a significant international incident, and numerous Muslims globally viewed it as an assault on sacred territory. That instant shifted Osama. He resolved he couldn't remain prosperous and passive. He abandoned his luxuries. He parted from his kin. He forsook the climate control, the opulence, the staff, and journeyed to Afghanistan. There, he prepared alongside the Mujahideen, Islamic combatants opposing the Soviet forces. He wasn't an adept warrior initially. He was slender, lacking strength, untrained in combat, but he possessed a potent asset: funds combined with conviction. He utilized his family's riches to acquire arms, construct training facilities, and enlist recruits. He began earning sway, admiration, notice, and gradually his persona evolved. He was no longer merely Osama from Saudi Arabia. He was transforming into Osama the fighter, Osama the commander, Osama the devotee. This is where it all originated. In Afghanistan, Osama mastered irregular combat, formed alliances with other radical figures, and started perceiving himself as selected for a grander role. He also witnessed something perilous: triumph. The Mujahideen, aided by the US, Pakistan, and others, ultimately expelled the Soviets. This convinced Osama that if they could vanquish a giant like the Soviet Union, they could overcome any foe. That conviction would soon disrupt the entire planet. Section 2: The emergence of Al-Qaeda, the foundation of worldwide dread. By 1989, the Soviet presence in Afghanistan had ended. The Mujahideen triumphed. They safeguarded their territory. And many warriors returned to their homelands, families, and tranquility. But Osama refused. Why? For Osama bin Laden, this extended beyond a single conflict. This transcended the Soviets. This concerned a larger cause. He thought if one superpower fell, the subsequent one could too. And in Osama's view, the following adversary wasn't the Soviet Union. It was the United States. Why the US? Let's delve into this thoroughly, as this is where his mindset truly altered. In the early 1990s, the US maintained bases in Saudi Arabia, Osama's homeland. They were present to shield against Saddam Hussein post-Gulf War. But Osama raged. He held that no infidel troops should tread on Islam's sacred soil, Saudi Arabia. America dominated the Middle East for petroleum and dominance. Islamic nations were weakening and corrupting by emulating the West. From that conviction arose his next hazardous notion. If Muslim regimes won't safeguard Islam, then we must battle independently. Around 1988 or 1989, Osama formally established a nascent group named Al-Qaeda. What signified this title? In Arabic, it denotes the foundation or core. To Osama, it represented the core of a universal Islamic force. Not limited to Afghan combatants, but spanning the globe. He commenced enlisting warriors from Egypt, Sudan, Pakistan, Yemen, Algeria, Iraq, and beyond. Many were disillusioned youths, resentful toward their rulers, impoverished and susceptible. But Osama transcended mere combatant status. He evolved into an orator, a planner, an instructor of perilous doctrines. He set up training sites primarily in Sudan and Afghanistan. He instructed bomb-making, firearm handling, evasion tactics, and most alarmingly, fostering animosity. Prior to September 11th, Osama and Al-Qaeda probed the globe. Let's examine the initial assaults. Few recall these. 1992, Yemen lodging explosion. Osama's operatives detonated a hotel in Aden, Yemen. Aimed at US troops. But they erred. Nevertheless, this marked Al-Qaeda's debut strike. 1993, initial World Trade Center blast. A vehicle bomb detonated in the underground garage of New York's World Trade Center. 6 fatalities, over 1,000 harmed. Not directly by Osama, but perpetrators connected to his web. This signaled America as a mark. 1998 U.S. Embassy explosions in Kenya and Tanzania. Dual truck bombs erupted near American diplomatic sites. 224 perished, thousands wounded. This was entirely orchestrated and carried out by Al-Qaeda. It was the instant the globe recognized this man's gravity. This organization was international. 2000 USS Cole Assault. A U.S. naval vessel docked in Yemen for refueling. A tiny vessel laden with explosives rammed it. 17 American crew members slain. Osama acknowledged involvement. During this era, Osama started disseminating video statements. You might recall him in a cavern, clad in combat gear, speaking composedly yet with profound fury. He used Arabic, but translations spread worldwide. He declared, "America opposes Islam. We will persist in strikes until they depart our territories. Jihad obliges every Muslim." But here's the chilling element. He didn't rant like a lunatic. He articulated deliberately, like an educator. He occasionally grinned. He appeared serene, nearly scholarly. That's why numerous young, bewildered males trusted him. He wasn't only slaying. He was indoctrinating. By the late 1990s, the U.S. recognized Osama's threat. They attempted to seize his finances, urged Sudan and Afghanistan to cease sheltering him, even launched missiles at his bases in 1998. But it failed. He continued relocating. He persisted in instructing. He sustained his force. He kept scheming. And within Afghanistan's peaks, Osama initiated plotting an event so immense it would alter history. The 9/11 scheme commences. Late 1999, early 2000. Osama assembled a particular cadre, later dubbed the Hamburg Group. Individuals from Germany, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. He assigned them a task. Master aircraft piloting. Not for aerial travel, but for targeting structures. They prepared in Germany, Malaysia, and eventually the U.S. They attended aviation academies in Florida, Arizona, and elsewhere. They led ordinary existences. No one suspected their intent. Osama financed the whole endeavor. He issued directives from Afghanistan and bided his time. In August 2001, Osama taped a confidential recording. He beamed. He stated, "A major event approaches. America will lose its security forever." Then he faded into the highlands. Section 3. The day everything halted. September 11, 2001. It was a Tuesday, an ordinary, serene, bright morning across the United States. Individuals prepared for jobs. Kids consumed morning meals. Aircraft departed routinely. The globe seemed tranquil. But beneath that serenity, an inconceivable horror loomed. For on this dawn, Osama bin Laden's elaborate scheme would materialize. The strategy cultivated over years. The strategy that conditioned 19 men for sacrifice. The strategy that would render him the most dreaded figure. Let's traverse that day, not distantly, but sequentially, moment by moment, precisely as it transpired. 5:45 a.m. Boston, Massachusetts. The initial pair of captors, Mohammed Atta and Abdulaziz Al-Omari, cleared security at Logan International Airport. They resembled typical travelers, composed, quiet, determined. They embarked on American Airlines Flight 11 bound for Los Angeles, with no intention of arrival. Concurrently, additional hijacker squads boarded United Airlines Flight 175, American Airlines Flight 77 and United Airlines Flight 93. 4 aircraft, 19 individuals, for lethal objectives. 8:14 a.m. Flight 11 seized. Aboard Flight 11, the assailants rose. They assaulted cabin crew and herded passengers rearward. Mohammed Atta assumed cockpit command. He redirected the aircraft southward to New York City. Precisely at 8:46 a.m., New York pedestrians gazed upward in terror. Flight 11 collided with the North Tower of the World Trade Center. The collision was enormous. The aircraft detonated upon impact. The structure ignited immediately. Debris, metal, fumes cascaded. Thousands occupied the interior, yet confusion reigned. Broadcasters assumed a mishap. Terrorism wasn't suspected. 9:03 a.m. The subsequent strike. 17 minutes on, amid global astonishment, Flight 175 neared. This aircraft slammed into the South Tower on live broadcasts. Now, certainty dawned. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't mishap. This was orchestrated aggression. In that instant, the world transformed. 9:37 a.m. Pentagon assaulted. Meanwhile, Flight 77 skimmed low over Washington, D.C. It rammed the Pentagon, the U.S. defense hub. The edifice burst. Barriers crumbled. Smoke engulfed the area. America's military core blazed. 9:59 a.m. South Tower crumbles. The South Tower, struck later, abruptly fell. Merely 56 minutes post-collision. He knew the terrain. He knew the grottos. He possessed wealth. He had safeguards. Thus, as U.S. ordnance struck Afghan ground, Osama disappeared. He concealed in Tora Bora, a cavernous mountain zone. He relocated stealthily via hidden passages, bribed residents for discretion. Even as U.S. troops neared, he evaded. And thus, Osama bin Laden turned into a spectral presence in the peaks. For the ensuing decade, the world hunted him. But he evaporated, observing, anticipating, still deemed hazardous. America vowed to exhaust all means to locate Osama bin Laden. The globe's mightiest army invaded Afghanistan. Countless troops scoured every crevice, ravine, and settlement. But he vanished. Not deceased, not apprehended. Simply absent. The architect of New York's devastation now concealed amid Afghanistan's stones and sand. Let's reveal each step Osama took over those 10 hidden years and how the CIA assembled clues fragment by fragment until pinpointing the elusive. In December 2001, U.S. forces uncovered a major find. A labyrinth of profound caverns in Tora Bora Mountains near Afghanistan-Pakistan border. They suspected Osama's presence. He was there. U.S. aircraft unleashed huge explosives. Elite units probed cavern after cavern. Afghan allies assisted. But Osama escaped, probably through concealed paths, perhaps trekking or on beast, over icy trails into Pakistan. It was flawless evasion. From then, leads froze. For years post 9/11, the U.S. presumed Osama lingered in frontier zones between Afghanistan and Pakistan. The CIA, with Pakistani ISI, examined grottos, hamlets, calls, imagery, informants. But fruitless. Osama became ethereal. No calls, no web, no journeys, no evidence. Occasionally, audio or video emerged. He discussed conflict, America, Islam. But location undisclosed, and by verification, he'd relocated. Let's explore Osama's decade-long survival undetected. First, zero electronic links. No telephones or emails. Messages via reliable couriers only. Second, no online trace, no web activity, no networks, no images. His image evaded tech. Third, secure residences and discretion. He shifted among Pakistani safe spots. These dwellings in subdued areas, avoiding metropolises or hubs. Fourth, devoted confidants. Few knew his whereabouts. These were faithful, pious, viewing him as divinely tasked. Though concealed, Al-Qaeda persisted. They motivated fresh terror factions in Iraq, Africa, Southeast Asia. Assumed blame for 2004 Madrid blasts and 2005 London attacks. Issued statements via Osama and Deputy Ayman al-Zawahiri. Al-Qaeda transcended organization, it became a concept, crossing frontiers, fueled by resentment and Osama's myth. Though unseen, his sway endured and grew. After prolonged setbacks, the CIA pivoted. They ceased direct hunts for Osama. Instead, targeted his entourage, messengers, protectors, couriers. One emerged, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti. A dependable messenger for Osama's dispatches. For years, CIA monitored him, calls, messages, travels, gradually mapping his routine. But destination elusive until 2010. A breakthrough. CIA discovered al-Kuwaiti resided in Abbottabad, a tranquil Pakistani town. But the residents intrigued. It was atypical. It concealed secrets. Let's detail it. 3 levels high, encircled by tall barriers. No web or phone connections. Barbed fencing, dual entry points, minimal openings. Refuse incinerated internally, not discarded. Numerous kids and females inside, yet family secluded. No outings, no interactions. Locals deemed it odd, but silent. In that region, inquiries were rare. Via satellite surveillance and agents over weeks, CIA spotted a lanky figure pacing the upper balcony, solitary. He never exited. He interacted with none. He seemed authoritative. No image, no confirmation. Yet CIA suspected Osama bin Laden. In 2010, President Barack Obama received updates. Advisors stated, "We've located a residence. We think Osama resides there, but certainty lacks." Risky. Wrong target? Pakistan's ire? Failure? But Obama decided. If him, we'll retrieve. No delays. They plotted history's most covert, perilous venture. In a classified facility, specialists replicated Abbottabad's compound. Analyzed layout, barrier heights, chambers, exits. Chose SEAL Team 6 elites. Months training on duplicate site. Every access, portal, space. Not warfare. Precision procedure. Silent, swift, conclusive. Mission dubbed Operation Neptune Spear. April 28, 2011, Obama informed, "Ready, sir." He commanded. Proceed. But secrecy absolute. No Pakistan notice, no press, no army. Mission confidential. This transcended eliminating Osama. It conveyed, flee, conceal, but pursuit endless. Section 4. The evening of discovery. Abbottabad incursion. Date, May 1, 2011. Nighttime in Pakistan, serene dusk in modest Abbottabad. Youths dined. Lights dimmed in homes. Area slumbered. But overhead, unseen, approach loomed. 2 stealth Black Hawks traversed darkness. Carried 23 Navy SEALs, interpreter, assault canine, plus accumulated anguish, drills, strategy. These from SEAL Team 6, premier U.S. squad for hazardous tasks. Target, enigmatic walled enclave on Kakul Road, Abbottabad. CIA's suspected Osama hideout. 12:30 a.m. choppers reach. Operation Silent. Aircraft skimmed low, mountain shielded, breached Pakistani skies unannounced. Inside, SEALs inspected arms. Night optics activated. Silence reigned. No reinforcements. Mishap meant isolation. Upon arrival, anomaly, one chopper hovered for roof drop, but heat, confines caused stall. It spiraled, crashed. Pilot composed, soft landed within walls, unharmed. Plan adjusted. No roof entry. Explosives breached barriers, entrances. Blasts roused vicinity, but advance continued. Compound three-tiered. SEALs swift, securing levels, issuing Arabic orders to disorient, dominate occupants. Encountered wailing females, sobbing kids, panicked males. But undeterred. Not to harm innocents. Focused on one, face memorized years, atop. Third floor, duo SEALs at shut chamber. Inside, motion, male voice, female cry. Door forced. Within, tall, bearded male in customary garb. Unarmed, yet unyielding. SEALs identified Osama bin Laden. He shielded behind spouse. She intervened. Shots fired. She injured. Then again. Dual rounds to Osama's torso, skull. Seconds ended it. No farewell address, no clash, no flight. The decade fugitive, video propagator, self-perceived invincible, lay bloodied on modest bedding in quiet space. SEALs proceeded. Retrieved corpse, seized drives, sticks, documents, all viable, snapped proof images. Confirmed 3 spouses, multiple offspring present. Son Khalid bin Laden slain in action. Compound prison-like, not stronghold. Years housebound. Residents heard detonations, gunfire, sighted aircraft. Most unaware. By Pakistani response, too late. 38-minute completion. SEALs torched wrecked chopper, safeguarding tech. Boarded remaining, with body, exited Pakistan. Raid concurrent, Washington, Obama, team in compact space, viewed via helmet cam. Tense hush. Seconds eternal. SEALs affirmed, Geronimo EKIA. Room paused. Then quiet solace. Decade pursuit concluded. Osama's body was flown to Afghanistan where U.S. officials took DNA samples, photos, fingerprint matches. Everything confirmed the identity. Then, in a final decision designed to avoid any grave becoming a shrine, the U.S. buried Osama bin Laden at sea within 24 hours. As per Islamic tradition, the sea was chosen to ensure no one could visit his grave. And just like that, the man who had spent years hiding now had no place left on earth. May 2, 2011, the world wakes up to the news. In the morning, President Obama stood before cameras and announced to the world, "Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden." People cried. Crowds gathered in New York and Washington. They sang. They cheered. They held signs that said, "Justice has been done." Around the world, reactions were complex. Some felt relief. Some felt closure. Some questioned the legality of the raid. Some feared revenge attacks. But one thing was clear. Osama bin Laden was no longer a threat. Part 5. The Ghost and the Legacy. After Osama bin Laden was dead. But death is not always the end of a man. Sometimes death is just the beginning of the questions. Who was he really? What did he leave behind? What did the world learn? And most importantly, why do his ideas still echo in the dark corners of the earth? Let's walk through everything that followed his death, the secrets that were uncovered, the truths that were buried, and the shadows that remained. After the SEALs left the Abbottabad compound, they didn't just take a body. They took over 5 computers, more than 100 USB drives, hard drives, papers, handwritten journals, letters, DVDs, flashcards. It was the largest intelligence haul from a single terrorist target in history. The CIA and FBI worked day and night to read, translate, and analyze everything. And what they found inside those drives was shocking. Behind the walls of his compound, Osama lived a double life. He was not just hiding. He was planning, writing, recording his thoughts. From his journals and files, we learned he was still in charge. Even though he hadn't stepped outside in years, Osama was still giving orders to Al-Qaeda groups in different countries. He sent letters to leaders in Yemen, Somalia, Iraq, and North Africa. He gave them instructions on who to target, when to attack, how to recruit young fighters, how to spread propaganda. He was the invisible leader, like a general working through messengers. He was afraid of technology. Osama warned his men never to use phones or internet. He believed drones could track signals. He feared satellites, tracking devices, and spies. That's why his compound had no Wi-Fi, no telephone, and no TV antennas. Every message was delivered by hand. It was slow, but it protected him for years. He worried about Al-Qaeda's future. In his private letters, Osama expressed concern that Al-Qaeda was losing its image. He believed that too many innocent Muslims were being killed in attacks by regional leaders. He feared that people were turning away from the movement. He even wrote about rebranding Al-Qaeda to gain more sympathy from the public. It was strange. The man who planned the deadliest attack in history was now worried that his group was becoming too extreme. He was planning more attacks. Perhaps the most disturbing detail. He was actively planning more attacks even while in hiding. He suggested targeting trains in the United States, major global events, political and military leaders, high-value business and economic targets. Even in isolation, his mind was working like a general, cold, strategic, focused, his family inside the compound. What happened to them? When the raid ended, Osama's wives and children were captured alive. There were 3 wives, several daughters and sons, 2 young boys who had never left the compound in their life. They were handed over to Pakistani authorities, and later some were sent back to their home countries. His youngest wife Amal from Yemen was shot in the leg during the raid but survived. She later told investigators Osama never left the house. He spent most of his time reading, praying, watching old videos. He told his children never to look out the windows. To the children, the compound was not a prison. It was their world. They didn't know there was a world outside. They never went to school. They never had friends. They never knew why the lights had to stay dim and why their father was always afraid. After the raid, one question shook the world. How could Osama bin Laden live in a military town for years and no one knew? The compound was only a few hundred meters from a Pakistani military academy in a neighborhood full of soldiers, police, and retired generals. Not hidden in the mountains, but right in a city. The Pakistani government claimed they had no idea he was there. But many questioned that was someone protecting him. Was there silent support? Or was it simply failure? No one fully knows. But the raid damaged the relationship between America and Pakistan deeply. One might think the death of Osama bin Laden ended terrorism. It didn't. In fact, new threats rose. ISIS grew in Iraq and Syria. Boko Haram expanded in Africa. Lone wolf attackers appeared in Europe. And the US Al-Qaeda became weaker. But the ideology Osama left behind had already spread. He had turned terrorism into a global brand. And even without him, others picked up the message. That's the danger of a belief. It doesn't die with the man. Osama bin Laden was not just a man with guns. He was a psychological weapon. He used religion, emotion, history, revenge, injustice, fear to control people's minds. That's what made him so dangerous. He knew what we must learn from his story. This story was never just about war. It was never just about politics or Islam or America. It was about something deeper. How belief can become blindness. How pain can turn into hatred. How power once given to the wrong mind can break nations. Osama bin Laden believed he was doing the right thing. He believed he was a warrior, a savior, a voice for the weak. But in the end, all he left behind was cities destroyed, families broken, children without parents, countries torn apart, and a world that lost its sense of safety. His life is not something to admire. It's something to understand. Because until we understand how he became who he became, we won't understand how others still fall into the same darkness. Osama bin Laden was born in luxury. He could have lived a life of peace, privilege, and contribution. But he chose something else. He chose anger. He chose ideology. He chose violence. He chose death for others and finally for himself. And in the end, he didn't die as a hero. He died in a dark room, hiding behind his wife, without a country, without a future, without a name left that brings honor. That is the true ending of his story. This video is created purely for educational and formational purposes. It is based on verified historical events, public records, and global news reports. We do not support, glorify, or promote any form of violence, terrorism, or hatred in any way. Our mission is to educate, inspire thoughtful discussion, and support English learners around the world through real life stories. Peace.